Hey everybody, ABC 10 meteorologist Brendan Minchef. Happy Sunday. Unfortunately, we've got more extreme winds on the way for Southern California as the Santa Anas return starting tomorrow for Monday, continuing through Tuesday. Up here in Northern California, things are quieter. It'll be gusty on Monday, but nothing like what we're going to see down in Southern California. Here are the ABC 10 weather impact headlines. Cold mornings and mild afternoons continue basically for the rest of this week. The exception is going to be Monday. It's going to be gusty starting tonight, continuing through Monday, and that is going to keep temperatures slightly warmer overnight. It'll keep the fog away as well. Down in Southern California, though, like we talked about, that extreme fire danger with the very strong Santa Ana winds, we are going to start down in Southern California. Red flag warnings in place from Monday through Tuesday for life-threatening fire weather conditions. Wind gusts 50 to 80 plus miles per hour. Humidity basically 5 to 10%. Rapid fire spread will be present for any new fires that start. We will see long-range spotting as well, like what we've seen, especially with the day when we had the Palisades and the Eaton fires start, how those fires start, and then it throws out embers well in front of the fire. That's called spotting. That is expected with any new fires that start. And then SoCal Edison is talking about PSPS outages, those public safety power shutoffs, because of the Santa Ana winds and the high fire danger. So this is a more typical Santa Ana setup in terms of direction of the winds and in terms of areas that we're going to be most concerned about. So we're talking about western LA County through the Santa Monica Mountains in towards Ventura County, including Oxnard, Ventura as well, Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, Calabasas, Santa Clarita as we work our way up into the San Fernando Valley. That's where we're going to see some of those stronger winds. Of course, the mountains of LA County and Orange County as well, and then all the way down through San Diego County, we'll be looking at those strong winds. So unfortunately, is another very dangerous fire weather setup. We'll go back towards the LA area here, the greater Los Angeles area. Those future wind gusts through Sunday afternoon. It's actually going to be a bit of an onshore wind out of the west. So humidity is going to be higher. That fire danger is much lower. It's going to give one more day for firefighters to try to get a better handle on the Palisades fire and what's left of the Eaton fire as well. Out towards the deserts, north of the mountains, we are going to be looking at those southwesterly winds. Palmdale seeing gusts closer to 20-25 miles per hour. But really for Sunday, it's going to be fine. It's when we get overnight tonight into tomorrow that we're going to see those winds start to shift. So this is 2 o'clock in the morning on Monday, and now that wind direction, although it's not real strong, it has changed. Now we're looking at those offshore winds, those weak Santa Anas overnight Monday. We're looking at gusts of about 15 to 20 through the Santa Monica Mountains, out into Ventura County as well. Not picking up just yet across the mountains of the county as of about 2 o'clock in the morning on Monday, but look what happens after sunrise. Now those winds are much stronger. This is 8 o'clock on Monday. These pink shades here, right? The purple to pink shading, that's 50 plus miles per hour. That's what we're seeing through the San Fernando Valley, through Ventura County as well. Right along the 101, the PCH going to be seeing some very strong gusts, and it just picks up as the day goes on Monday. Now the mountains are getting in on it too, down through Orange County, Santa Ana seeing gusts of 40 plus miles per hour. And look at this as well. Simi Valley 36, Oxnard 33, Malibu right on the coast about at 12 at this particular location. But as soon as you work your way up into elevation just off the coast a little bit, that's when those winds are going to get much stronger. So another, again, very strong Santa Ana event all day Monday, starting early in the morning by about 6, 7 o'clock. Those winds really going to start to ramp up, continuing to ramp up through the afternoon on Monday. Overnight Tuesday, those winds remain strong and they remain offshore. So we're not going to see any overnight humidity recovery for Tuesday. Look at this, overnight, still seeing gusts through the San Fernando Valley, through Ventura County, over 45 miles per hour. Same story down through Orange County as well. Wind gusts well over 45 miles an hour. And that's the gusts. Sustained winds are going to be strong as well, 25 to 35 plus sustained. The red flag warnings calling for gusts in localized areas up to 80. So another 48-hour ordeal with the Santa Ana winds. By the time we get late in the day on Tuesday, it does start to improve. We'll still have some pockets of that offshore wind, but the direction starts to change a little bit. That will be winding down as we head into Wednesday, as the winds continue to taper and we get a little bit more of an onshore wind developing. As we look at humidity, this is through this afternoon. Again, humidity not bad. Today is the last day before we ramp up the fire danger once again. So places like Malibu see a 90% humidity, about 88% Santa Monica, downtown LA about 77%, Santa Ana 66%. So a very typical kind of onshore wind setup. But as soon as those winds start to change direction, we have that overnight recovery. But then by early Monday, those winds become offshore, especially out through the Santa Monica Mountains, out into Ventura County, through the valley. Now we're looking at humidity values dropping pretty quickly. The winds won't be quite as strong through the kind of urban core of LA down through Long Beach. So that humidity is going to stay higher for a little longer. But by the time we get into the afternoon hours, look at this. Those winds strong through Monday afternoon, like what we talked about. Simi Valley, 11% humidity. Oxnard, 8%. Ventura, 10%. Downtown, down to 16%. Just 7%. Pasadena, Anaheim, Santa Ana, down to 9% relative humidity. So we're seeing very strong wind gusts, 50 to 80 plus miles per hour. Relative humidity values in the single digits for the windiest areas. And there's no overnight recovery, almost no overnight recovery Monday into Tuesday. This is 2 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, and we're still seeing relative humidity values about 5 to 15% for the areas that are going to see those strongest wind gusts. You look at the mountains, and we're talking about relative humidity values likely 5% or less. That continues into Tuesday. Tuesday is going to see likely the lowest relative humidity values for this extended period of Santa Ana winds. Now we're looking at 4% San Bernardino, 5% Anaheim, 4% Santa Ana, about 6% downtown, 6% Simi Valley, 10% Oxnard, 18% Ventura. So Tuesday, the winds remain strong and the relative humidity is even lower than what we'll see on Monday. It's not until we get towards Wednesday that things slowly start to improve. But this is going to be at least 48 hours of extreme fire danger. So the details you need to know about for Southern California. If you're going down there, you got friends, you got family down there, I'm sure they are aware of this, right? It's been 2 or maybe 3 weeks now where we've had these periods of Santa Ana winds. But here's the breakdown that you need to know. Pass this info along to them. Monday and Tuesday, extreme life-threatening fire danger, strong Santa Ana winds with rapid fire spread, and like what we talked about a minute ago, that long-range spotting out in front of the fire. So any new fires that start are going to grow rapidly and have the potential to be spotting well in front of that fire. Have your go bags packed and ready. And here's the deal. Evacuate if you feel unsafe. You do not have to wait for an evacuation order to come in to leave your place of residence, your house, your apartment, whatever it may be. If there's a fire nearby that starts and is growing, you can see the smoke, whatever it may be, you don't feel safe in that situation where you are at, just leave. You do not need to wait for that evacuation order. If your go bags are packed and ready, just put the bags in the car, put everybody in the car and leave. That's all you got to do. Again, you don't have to wait to leave. Give yourself that extra time. If you have unpacked a go bag or you're thinking about packing a go bag, here are the 5 Ps from CAL FIRE. And I go over this a lot. If you heard this before, it's always good to refresh. The most important thing, so this is a numbered list, the most important thing is people. 1 bag per person in your household. Clothes, some non-perishable foods, the essentials need to go in each person's bag for each person in your house. If there's 5 people in your house, you need at least 5 go bags, right? And each person needs to be able to take their go bag with them to put it in the car so that you can leave quickly. Don't pack this tomorrow. Don't pack this on Tuesday. If you're down in Southern California, pack your go bag right now. Give yourself that time. This way, if a fire starts, you're not running around your house trying to collect your belongings and remembering the important things. It's better to do it ahead of time. The number 2, the second most important thing here, pets. At least 1 go bag for your pets in your household. Make sure they've got food. Make sure they got some toys. Make sure they've got the essentials, any medications for the pets. Make sure all that is in a go bag as well. If there's room in yours, it can go in your go bag, but you may need 1 more. So if there's 5 people in your house and you got a pet or 2, maybe you've got 6 go bags that need to go in the car. Number 3 is papers. These are important documents, insurance documents, birth certificates, passports, whatever it may be. Whatever documents that you may need to rebuild, don't leave them in a fireproof safe. Make sure they are in a go bag. If the safe is fireproof, the safe will still be around, but it's going to heat up inside, and the contents of that safe, that fireproof safe, may burn. We saw that in the Palisades fire. The fire was so hot, ripping through some of these residences, that even though they had fireproof safes in there with important documents, whatever it may be, passports, those just turned to ash because of how hot it got inside the safe. It just basically cooked inside of that fireproof safe. So don't leave it in your residence. Make sure you bring it with you. Throw the whole safe in the car if you have room and you need to, but make sure those documents are with you. Again, insurance documents, passports, social security cards, marriage licenses, whatever it may be. Make sure you've got it with you. Super important. Think of it this way. Any sort of documents that you may need to rebuild completely, unfortunately. That's a way to think about that in terms of papers. Number 4 is prescriptions. This is any sort of medication. Make sure you've got the medicine you need. Make sure your pets, your kids, your family members, make sure you've got all of the necessary medical devices, all the necessary medications. Make sure all that is in your go bags. You don't want to have to go back for it. But it is number 4, right? It is somewhat replaceable. In a short time frame, you should be able to get a new round of some of that medication. Number 5 is the least important thing. It's photos, but really it's anything sentimental, right? Look, it could be photos that you haven't digitized. Just take them out of the picture frames, throw them in a go bag. Could be little trinkets, little knickknacks. Again, it's replaceable items or maybe things that have a high sentimental value that you want to bring with you. But it should not take priority over anything above it. Make sure you have number 1 through 4. These are all the essentials. Make sure all of these things are with you. Make sure you've got a change of clothes. Make sure you got some non-perishable food for you. And then, of course, for the pets as well, make sure they got your food. Make sure you've got your important documents. Make sure you've got your medicine. If you still have some space in the go bag, that's when you can put the sentimental items in there. But make sure it's not going to slow you down getting out the door or take up extra space. The most important thing is you and your family members and your pets, that you all can get out and be safe. And if you've got the room for the extras, that's number 5. So just remember this, maybe screenshot it if you're watching on your phone. Remember these things when packing a go bag. And one more time, I will say, pack it now ahead of the fire danger. This is prime time for Santa Ana winds. We just don't normally think of fire danger in January because we normally have rain. And we'll talk about that in a second. But December, January, and February all average about 5 Santa Ana wind events per month. That is peak all year long. Normally, we think about high fire danger in the fall, maybe like in October, November, when we have the Santa Ana winds, but before we get the rain. So even though we have fewer Santa Ana wind events in October and November compared to December through February, typically fire danger is higher because we haven't had the rain. But again, it is very common. In fact, it is most common to have these Santa Ana offshore winds occur between December and February. But like I said, what is uncommon about this is that we've not had the rain. The last day with half an inch of rain in downtown LA, Oceanside, San Diego, Santa Barbara, March 30th, almost 300 days ago at this point. For Oxnard, it was April 14th, so not much better. If you want to look at the last day with a 1/10 of an inch of rain, many locations, that moves you out to about early May for much of Southern California. So it has been exceptionally dry for many, many months now, and that is why fire danger is still alive and well in Southern California. I mean, look at this. For the water year, which began on October 1st, this is LAX here, just 0.03 of an inch of rain. San Diego, just 0.14 of an inch of rain. Palm Springs, technically a trace, that's less than 1/100 of an inch of rain. Santa Barbara, just over half an inch of rain. Almost nothing in Southern California. But when you look up here to Northern California, we're having a near average to above average water year for many locations. We've had a very dry January, however, and that's why we're starting to see these numbers drop below average for places like San Francisco, Sacramento, Stockton, and Modesto. But Eureka and Redding still about 5 inches or more above average on the water year. But look at the departure from normal for Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, Palm Springs, San Diego. San Diego now over 4 inches below average on the water year. LA about 5¼ inches. Santa Barbara 6 3/4 inches. So it is the second driest start to a water year for downtown LA, with records going back to 1877. For LAX, records go back to 1944. It is the driest start to a water year. Palm Springs since 1922, the second driest start to a water year. In San Diego, with records going back to 1850, this is the driest start to a water year down there. Exceptionally dry conditions across Southern California. is what's making these Santa Ana wind events exceptionally dangerous, because we just haven't had the rain. So the wind is kind of the cause, right? It's kind of what's leading to that elevated fire danger. But if we'd had rain, if it's been raining in Southern California, we wouldn't have the high fire danger. So the rain is really the why. It is why fire season is alive and well. In these weak La Nina winters, which is pretty much what we've had to this point, Southern California still averages about 80 to 90% of a normal precipitation year. Well, they're way below that. But in Northern California, we average close to an average, anywhere from about 90 to 100%. There's been some exceptions. These numbers are specifically for the Sacramento Valley, which is kind of this area here. But look at this, 2016-17, 156% of average, 2005-6, 138% of average, 2022 to 2023, 127% of average, 83, 84, 108% of average. I'll point out that 2016-17 and 22-23 were major drought-busting winters, right? We went from historic drought to historic wet, and we ended that drought in a weak La Nina winter. When we typically think of La Nina, we typically think drier than average. It's not necessarily been the case. But I'll also point out that despite 2016-17 being 156% of average, the very next water year, 2017-18, was just 76% of average. So these weak La Nina winters can be wet, like what we see there, 2016-17. They can also be very dry, like what we saw in 2017-18. And for Southern California, more often than not, they are drier than average, but still, what we are seeing this year is exceptional in terms of dryness. Taking it back to Northern California now, diving a little bit more into the numbers for Sacramento. This month, January, we've only seen 0.3 of an inch of rain in Sacramento. To date, we usually see 2.3 inches, which means we are about 2 inches below average for the month. Now, the water year is a little bit of a different story. We had some decent rainfall events in November, none that were particularly heavy all at once, but it was like a lot of smaller rain events in November. Very similar in December, although we did have a couple of bigger storms. We had a lot of kind of smaller storms moving through in December. So that really propped up our numbers on the water year so far. But because we've had a dry January, again, only 0.3 of an inch of rain in Sacramento, the average to date for the water year, 8.5. Now we are below average by about 3/4. We can easily make that up. In one storm, that's a number we could make up for this time of year. But certainly, we would like to be at or above average for the time of year. It's always better to have a little more water than a little less. Could that change in February? Could February be exceptionally wet? Sure, it absolutely could. The faucet could turn on and it could rain for half of February. I'm not saying that's the case. It doesn't seem like that'll be the case. But it's this time of year where we get those big storms and can easily erase some deficits. But January is an important month because as we look at the average monthly rainfall, it is the wettest month on average in Sacramento. December, January, February are the 3 wettest months, and January particularly, with almost 3.9 inches of rain on average, is typically the wettest month for Sacramento. So the fact that we are as dry as we are, that we've seen as little rain as we've seen in January, is slightly concerning. But again, February could come in. We could get plenty of rain in February. We could get maybe 2 big storms and we make up a deficit, and now we're back above average. We just don't know. But again, it's always better to be a little bit above average than below. For Southern California, they would definitely need some very large storms to start making up those deficits. But then, kind of sidebar here, the problem with rain now that we've had post-fires, right? Yeah, it would eliminate the fire danger if we had a big storm in Southern California. But because of the large burn scars for the Eaton Fire, Palisades Fire, and some of the smaller burn scars in Southern California, ash is hydrophobic. So water doesn't seep into the ground where we've got that ash and that burn scar. It just runs right across. So now, if we were to get a big storm in Southern California, yes, it brings it into fire season, but now we'd have to be looking at debris flows, flash flooding, mudslides, landslides. Now it's a whole other ball game down there. So now it's kind of a lose-lose scenario in a lot of ways. It's either dry and you got the fire danger, or it's wet and you've got this flood and mudslide risk. So unfortunately, the rain down there, again, is tough because on the one hand, it improves things. On the other, it makes a different situation worse. Here in Northern California, on Sunday, high is going to be in those upper 50s and low 60s. So kind of focusing back home now. Temperatures tomorrow morning, though, we'll see some 30s. But because we're going to start to see some wind picking up as well, temperatures should be a little warmer, maybe a little closer to 40 degrees for some areas like Sacramento with those winds out of the north. Tomorrow afternoon for Monday, we could be as warm as the middle 60s across parts of the valley thanks to some of that wind. So we talked about the wind in Southern California. Here's what it looks like in Northern California. Really nothing for Sunday until we get closer to midnight. Then those north winds are going to develop. Around sunrise tomorrow, we'll be looking at wind gusts close to 35, 45 miles per hour, basically along and west of Interstate 5 in the valley. But even places like Sacramento, going to be seeing wind gusts about 20 to 30 miles per hour throughout the daytime on Monday. This north wind continues through the valley all day long. We'll have an easterly wind through the Sierra for the same time frame with wind gusts in the Sierra. In some areas, 50 plus miles per hour. Not a long duration wind event, though. By the time we get towards midnight, late Monday into Tuesday, those winds are already dying down. And Tuesday, we're just going to see a slight breeze, if anything at all. So the wind not going to last very long in Northern California. It will make tomorrow morning warmer. I don't expect we'll see much in the way of fog because of the wind. Upper 30s, some low 40s in the valley. But then when the winds die down, we're actually going to have some colder nights. This is for like city centers, like the urban core of Sacramento or Stockton or Modesto. I'm talking about temperatures at the freezing mark, 32 degrees. When you get away from city centers, could be even colder than that. We could have some upper 20s for some areas. So definitely some of the colder nights that we see in Northern California in the valley on the way for Tuesday and Wednesday. Temperatures in the morning slowly climb Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then we'll be back in the upper 30s and 40s by the time we get to the start of the weekend. But as soon as those clouds, we'll have some clouds, and as soon as those clouds start to clear out again, Sunday morning, we're back in those 30s. So a couple of really cold nights, likely Tuesday and Wednesday, and then we're back in those mid-30s. But this is below average for the time of year. The average low 41 to 42, so we are below average by many degrees in the mornings. Opposite in the afternoons. It's not often we get this pattern where we're below average in the mornings and above average in the afternoon, but that's where we are right now, and that's where we're going to stay for the next 7 days. The average high 57 to 58 degrees, and I've got mostly 60s over the next 7 days. So we're going to be above average by anywhere from about 3 to 5 degrees across much of the valley. Upper 50s today, low to mid 60s tomorrow, 50s again on Tuesday, but then 60s beyond that headed into the weekend. So again, strange kind of setup where we're below average in the morning and above average in the afternoon. The overall weather pattern remains conducive to these offshore wind events for both northern and southern California because the strong high pressure is sitting right off the coast. So basically, every time we get a low pressure dropping through the Rockies, through the Great Basin, that's going to create a flow, an atmospheric flow where we get those winds pushing out to sea, especially for Southern California with the Santa Anas and how mountainous it is down there. Just the way that pattern sets up with the surface high pressure leading to that flow offshore. That's why we've had so many events this month. And again, that's typical for the time of year. But because we have that blocking high pressure, we are not getting any rain, and the lack of rain is atypical, especially in Southern California. High pressure continues to block through much of this coming week, but the pattern does finally break down headed into the final week of January. This is January 25th. Next weekend, high pressure moves a little bit to the west. It also moves a bit to the north into the Gulf of Alaska. That's going to open that storm door. It's going to bring us some cooler temperatures. I'm not sold yet on rain. Definitely going to be potential for it, but with this blocking ridge extending all the way up into the Pacific Northwest off the coast of British Columbia, it still kind of shuts down that atmospheric river train. So even though we get the system dropping in, it's not able to tap into a lot of that Pacific moisture. So any systems that come in will be breezy, they'll be cool. There could be some showers with it, especially for the high elevations of the Sierra, but there's not necessarily a ton of moisture to go with it. However, the good news is it is a more conducive pattern overall. It's better than having that high pressure just sitting right overhead. The 8 to 14-day climate outlook also reflects a changing pattern. This is January 26th through February 1, with much of the western U.S. and honestly much of the country as a whole leaning cooler than average. Part of the Great Basin leaning drier, but most of the West Coast actually looking at a near average precipitation pattern for the end of the month and the start of February. So again, it's not a slam dunk. It's not saying it's going to rain. It's not rain in the forecast per se, but it is at least a little more favorable compared to where we've been. Highs on Sunday, upper 50s and low 60s. Like we talked about in the valley, we'll call it sunny and mild. Over the next 3 days, temperatures do warm up, especially on Monday because of those northerly winds. So we'll start off in those mid to upper 30s, some 40s for Monday morning. Then in the afternoons, we'll be in the 60s. By the time we get to Tuesday, those winds die down. So we're back in the 50s in the afternoon, and mornings are going to be back in those low 30s near the freezing mark, including for the kind of urban cores, the city centers. So it is going to be cold, especially Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning. Looking out over the next 10 days into the far part of the forecast, still no rain on the horizon, but the pattern does start to change and we will be cooler even in the afternoons with highs back in those middle 50s. If you're watching this on YouTube, I recommend you get the ABC 10 Plus app. It's on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and just your smart TVs as well. We've got a weather playlist where you can see more extended forecasts like this one. We've got weather explainers, and we've got some long-form weather, water, and climate specials. That's all in the ABC 10 Plus app under the weather playlist. Thanks for watching.